Taekook are beautiful, and what they shared felt like a gift that arrived just when it was most needed. It wasn't just a special moment, it was a complete feeling that lingered in the air and in our hearts. The connection between Taehyung and Jungkook is clearly felt, minute by minute, in the way they look at each other, how they listen to each other, and in the tranquility they exude when they're together. Many people doubted them when they weren't as visible, when schedules, commitments, and distance seemed to pull them apart. Even so, time has made it clear that what unites them doesn't disappear. Today, the bond between Taehyung and Jungkook feels stronger, deeper, and more secure. The recent livestream was clear proof of that. The natural flirting, the soft voices, the shared laughter, and those little gestures that only they understand made everything feel intimate and real. In that space, even Jin ended up being part of the moment from a place of amusement, like someone observing a dynamic he already knows well. The energy was so palpable that at times it felt like we were witnessing an ordinary night in Taekook's life, one of those nights where everything flows effortlessly. The way Taehyung mentioned, more than once, that he would sleep next to Jungkook revealed trust, habit, and closeness. It wasn't something said casually, but with the ease of someone speaking of their safe haven. When Jin joked about sleeping together, the reaction was immediate. Neither of them agreed, and that spoke volumes without any need for exaggeration. Phrases like your bed, your house, my house conveyed a clear message. They share more than just public moments, they share a space, a routine, and a life that feels like a shared experience. This naturalness is what resonates most with their fans, because it's not about grand pronouncements, but everyday gestures. Seeing them like this, happy, relaxed, and so close, generates an emotion that's hard to describe. There's joy, calm, and a sense of witnessing something genuine. For those who waited patiently, this reunion was special. It felt like a reward for constant affection, for the trust maintained even in silence. Taekook returned with the same essence as always, but with a maturity that is both noticeable and palpable. In an environment where many things can seem false or empty, Taehyung and Jungkook show another side of love, one that is built with time, respect, and loyalty. They don't need to prove anything with grand speeches. Their love is evident in the details, in how they care for each other, and in how they choose each other time and time again. Thank you, Taekook, for being who you are and for sharing that special light. Your relationship inspires, comforts, and reminds us that true love exists, even in the simplest gestures. We will be here accompanying you, supporting you, and celebrating every step you take together. This recent live stream from Taehyung and Jungkook leaves a profound feeling, one that lingers even after the screen goes dark. It's not just about seeing them together, but about everything they convey when they share the same space with such tranquility. From the very beginning, Taehyung appears comfortable, relaxed, and connected, like two people who understand each other effortlessly. Their expressions are sincere, their smiles gentle, and their gazes filled with an intimacy that needs no explanation. Jungkook observes Taehyung with unwavering attention. His eyes reflect care, interest, and a tenderness that feels genuine. There's no distraction when Taehyung speaks or moves. On the contrary, Jungkook seems to follow every gesture naturally, like someone simply enjoying the presence of the person he loves. Taehyung responds to that attention with a calm smile, with an open and luminous expression that exudes confidence and well-being. It's clear he feels in a place where he can be himself. Over the years, the relationship between Taehyung and Jungkook hasn't lost its sparkle. What emerges is a stronger, deeper, and more secure connection. They continue to gaze at each other with that special spark that arises when two people share history, memories, and growth. The flirtation between them appears in simple gestures, soft tones of voice, and meaningful glances. They don't need to exaggerate anything because the closeness is already there, clear and constant. At several points during the live stream, everything else seems to fade into the background. The camera, the surroundings, and the people around them become insignificant compared to the small world that Taehyung and Jungkook create when they are together. The atmosphere becomes intimate, calm, and deeply honest. The viewer can feel they are witnessing something real, a connection that isn't created to be seen, but simply exists. The mutual care is evident in every detail: Taehyung's touch of Jungkook's hand, the way they approach each other without haste, the gentle gestures that reflect attention and gratitude. Jungkook receives this affection calmly, like someone who feels safe and valued. Everything flows with a naturalness that speaks of trust, sincere affection, and a relationship built on respect. Their voices also contribute greatly to this atmosphere. The calm tones, soft laughter, and the intimate way they speak to each other reinforce the feeling of love. They don't seek to stand out or draw attention, they simply share the moment. This way of communicating conveys a deep closeness, a connection sustained by both words and silences. The love that is perceived between Taehyung and Jungkook is clear and constant. It's not limited to a single gesture but manifests itself in many small details that, together, form something very strong. Their language of affection is varied, full of nuances and colors. It's clear that they care for each other, support each other, and genuinely enjoy being together. This energy is felt and transmitted to anyone who sees them. Taekook represents a story that continues to grow with time. A relationship marked by closeness, understanding, and a connection that remains strong. Seeing them like this reminds us that love can be quiet, present, and profound, without the need for grand displays. And that feeling remains, leaving a warm impression that lingers even after the live performance ends. For years, many who closely follow Taehyung and Jungkook's story have perceived something that goes beyond mere coincidence. It's a constant, calm, and unwavering feeling, evident in the way they look at each other when they think no one else is watching, in how they search for each other with their eyes even when surrounded by people, and in those spontaneous gestures that arise without thought. There's a naturalness between them that endures over time and doesn't change depending on the place or moment. That closeness doesn't fade or try to hide, it simply flows. The relationship between Taehyung and Jungkook is built from small but significant details. A grand setting isn't necessary for that connection to become clear. It's enough to observe how they position themselves next to each other, how their bodies approach each other with confidence, or how a simple shared smile speaks volumes. It's a kind of affection that is expressed constantly, without needing explanation, and that conveys calm and security. There is mutual care between them. It's evident in the way they support each other when they're tired, in how they pay attention to each other even when everything around them seems to be moving fast. Taehyung finds in Jungkook a space where he can be himself, with his silences and his sensitivity, while Jungkook seems to feel protected and understood when he's near Taehyung. This dynamic creates a special balance, one that strengthens with time. The bond they share doesn't arise from a single moment, but from a shared history that unfolds day by day. Every gesture adds up, every glance reinforces what already exists. There's complicity, there's trust, and there's an emotional connection that remains strong. It's not something that appears and disappears, but a constant presence that accompanies their personal and professional growth. The way they relate to each other is easy to recognize because it has its own rhythm. Jungkook doesn't show this same kind of affection to just anyone, and Taehyung doesn't distribute that kind of attention indiscriminately either. When they're together, a different atmosphere is created, one where closeness feels comfortable and genuine. Their interactions have their own language, made up of gentle gestures, lingering glances, and effortless smiles. Taekook, as a couple, represents a story of unity and understanding. It's not just about visible moments, but a deep connection that's felt even in silence. There's respect, admiration, and affection that remains present at every stage. This relationship conveys a sense of stability that's easy to appreciate for those who observe closely. Over time, this connection doesn't weaken, on the contrary, it becomes clearer. You can see that they enjoy being together, that they choose each other naturally, and that they find constant support in one another. They don't need grand gestures for this bond to feel real. The way they're there for each other speaks for itself. In Taehyung and Jungkook, you see a relationship built on emotional closeness, care, and trust. It's a story that moves forward with sure steps, marked by sincere gestures and a lasting connection. Taekook is not just an idea, it is a constant presence that is reflected in the way they share their space, their time, and their attention, creating a bond that continues to grow and leaving a deep impression on those who observe it.